Hello, I'm Dylan,
And I'm Keon.
and this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we get eaten by a trash can, because this week we watched Rose,
Written by Russell T. Davies.
directed by Keith Boak, I don't know.
And aired on March 26th, 2005.
What's with these Doctor Who directors all having difficult to pronounce names? First there was Chris Clough, and now there's, what's his name? Keith Boak.
Well, it's not really difficult to pronounce once you know how to pronounce it. I mean, it's just like...
All right,
it's just difficult to read.
Yeah, difficult to figure out how to pronounce names.
I don't know. Maybe that's a prerequisite. Good luck directing your episode.
Yeah.
I guess I'm disqualified too, actually.
Yeah, kind of. Well, we're finally at the reboot, so it's all... I was going to say it's all downhill from here, but that's not true. But it's also not all uphill from here either.
It's just straight sailing. It's not going to get any better, but it's also not going to get any worse. No.
No, we're gonna hit some real choppy seas soon. Up and down.
Yeah, well, with Rose,
Rose, the character or the episode?
both, I guess. But pretty fitting that this episode would feature trash cans. I guess, sort of foreshadowing the entire reboot.
Nah.
If this episode is any indicator, actually, no, I liked the episode, so no.
Yeah, I thought this was a decent episode. I think we should talk about Russell T first, because he was the one who was really pushing to reboot the show, and also the show works differently in the reboot now. So in the classic series, they had serials, and now we don't. Just single episodes, which
makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. TV has changed since the classic era, and Doctor Who has to change as well. Anyway, so basically,
yeah, I mean,
Russell
honestly, by the 80s, TV had already probably changed. It was just Doctor Who that was stuck in the past.
Ironically enough, yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, Russell T was like, we should reboot Doctor Who, and the BBC was like, no, we'll make a movie instead. And then the movie went nowhere, and Russell T was like, how about we reboot Doctor Who now? And the BBC was like, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and reboot
You forced
Doctor
our
Who.
hand, Russell.
Russell actually wrote a book for the Seventh Doctor in the late 90s called Damaged Goods, which is apparently extremely dark. He also created some other shows, like Queer as Folk, and some other shows that I don't remember the names of because they're not nearly as famous as that one.
I haven't heard of any of them, so...
And then he rebooted Doctor Who. And now he's here.
Now he's known as the guy who rebooted Doctor Who.
Well, he was also the first showrunner. So in the reboot, the showrunner position is kind of the...
God Emperor.
Yes! I mean, yes! I was going to say, like, the producer/script editor positions of the past kind of merged into one, although there's still a script editor, but no one remembers their names because they have less bearing on the overall direction of the show.
Get locked
now.
in the closet.
They're just there.
They're
in
given their
name
daily
only.
bread and water when they produce material.
Anyway, so that change, and also the change when BBC allowing people to write for their own shows now means we get a lot of episodes written by the showrunners because...
They have their own egos to fan the flames of.
Well, that, and also because it's cheaper to just write for your own show than to hire someone else to do it for you. And also, when the writers randomly drop out because of prior commitments, as will happen this season, the showrunner has to fill in and write an episode really quickly to fill in the gap.
As, similar things happened in the classic series, actually.
Yeah.
Just more them finding loopholes.
To break their contract to write for their own program.
We're going to be getting Neil Gaiman soon enough, unfortunately.
His episodes are actually pretty
He's written, like,
decent.
one good thing. His books, at least.
He's written 2 Doctor Who episodes, and I thought the first one is better than the second one, but I think they're both pretty good.
He's an extremely overrated writer.
Maybe it's because those episodes appear in some dry spells of the seasons, but I guess we'll see when we get there. But for now, we'll stick to Rose.
Yeah, the character and the episode.
Yeah, that's extremely confusing, by the way.
Well, the episode begins with Rose. Rose begins with Rose.
Rose.
There's some time-lapse scenes of London where she lives.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to represent her boring and monotonous life, where all she does is
go to work
and have lunch with her boyfriend.
And hang out with her annoying mom.
Yeah.
So we've seen London, obviously, in like 70% of all classic series episodes. But this, since I've actually been to London before, when this came on screen, I was like, that's the London that I remember going to.
That's the London that's not 30 years out of
old.
date.
Yeah, basically. There's some techno-ish music playing during these time-lapse scenes, so in line with the classic series. I think that's actually was a trend for this episode while watching. I constantly thought to myself, wow, this is a lot more similar to the classic show than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised by the techno music because I haven't seen this episode in like 2 years. So the only music I remember from Reboot Doctor Who is the most recent episodes, which are extremely different in style. So I was like, oh man, techno music. Yeah,
I knew they were gonna sort of drop off. Like, I think that was one of my notes I took, which is, when are they gonna just shift it into generic Hollywood style action-ish music?
It's not really Hollywood style, because Hollywood style is usually pretty bad. So, my opinion anyway. Pretty much every action movie has a terrible score, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty much true. Can't wait for that superhero bubble to burst.
I'm kind of honestly hoping
every episode.
They do drop the techno music because, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it fits in this. Well, actually, it seems like it fits in this episode, but I feel like in the later episodes when they get more away from contemporary London, the super early 2000s techno music is going to seem really out of place.
Well, obviously, I don't know about later episodes, but I thought it really did fit here, and it actually made it feel like the classic show, like a lot.
Yeah, that was probably the intention, to be honest. Because there was some non-techno music in this that appears a lot throughout the season.
Yeah, there was some sort of just generic music.
There was the choir-ish piece that plays at certain key moments when Rose is talking with the Doctor, and that piece, if I remember correctly, I think is
it's a remix of the Doctor Who theme.
Is the Bad Wolf theme for this season.
There was the Doctor Who Doctor Who
Grant.
There was the Doctor Who theme as part of the soundtrack for probably the first time since Meglos.
Well, I mean, that's good because I don't know why.
It's like the only recognizable piece of music in all 50 years of Doctor Who.
Well, the 11th Doctor's
maybe the Lytton theme.
Yeah, the Lytton theme, great. The one theme they reused in multiple episodes in the classic series. Oh boy. Hey, we forgot to mention we have a new theme tune. Obviously, I don't know why they'd slap on
the 1989 one. No.
The early 90s synth music.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the new intro.
I am. Maybe it's because I'm nostalgic, though. Actually, this is my favorite theme, probably.
You're nostalgic for stuff from 2 years ago?
Well, yeah, my first Doctor Who episode was a Russell T Davies episode with this theme, so,
I'm not nostalgic for, like, Unearthly Child.
Well, that makes sense, because Unearthly Child was,
not that entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I guess we're going to get more into the 9th Doctor, but he actually reminded me of the 1st and 3rd Doctors a lot.
Yeah, me too. And I remember when I watched him, he was my least favorite of the reboot Doctors, but perhaps that opinion will change. I'm trying to keep an open mind when we watch these episodes.
Well, he has like 10 episodes left to grow on us. So.
12, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Rose wakes up. Her alarm sounds exactly like mine, so that was pretty annoying.
She wakes up at 7:30.
Yeah.
Jeez. So she goes to work.
It's not that
She works at
early.
a department store.
I wake up at like 4.
Yeah, I know you wake up at 4 because you want to get like 4 hours of sleep. So she works at the department store, and then someone's
dead-end
like...
job. So, we get a montage of her working all day.
someone's like, hey, can you take this to Wilson? And apparently Wilson's the CEO, who apparently also has his office in the basement.
No, he wasn't the CEO because it said on his door said CEO, but it was Chief Electrical Operator or something like that.
Oh, so he's just being snarky.
Yeah.
That would explain why his office is in the basement, too.
Yeah. I was kind of confused about that too, and then they like name dropped the term chief electrical whatever it was, operator probably. So I was like, oh, that's what he is.
Makes a lot of sense, actually. Anyway, so Rose is being attacked by the Autons.
She doesn't know they're Autons. Obviously, she thinks they're just people in mannequin suits, I guess.
Which they are,
but not because they're not human.
Yeah.
She's like, good one, guys. You really got me. You can stop trying to attack me now. They don't do that.
Autons actually look pretty good, in my opinion, costume-wise. They actually look like mannequins who are moving, so that's an upgrade. Oh, gotten before.
Sure.
At least the regular Autons. The CG Autons are... Oh,
yeah,
boy.
We can get into the CG of this.
Yeah, I liked the Autons' design. I don't know
about bringing them back as the first villain of the reboot.
Well, so I think Russell T wanted to bring back a villain from the classic show, but I don't think he wanted to bring back one of the big famous ones because he didn't want to overshadow the introduction of the Doctor and the Companion and everything. But I think he also wanted that little bit of continuity for fans of the classic series, which is why he chose the Autons.
There are a lot better villains to choose than the Autons. Like, he could have brought back the Sea Devils or the Silurians. Maybe. Yeah. Well, then again, if you want to show in London,
yeah,
they would have to be like in the Thames River, however you pronounce that.
The Thames.
Yeah.
And also, I think he was trying to kind of reference / riff off of Spearhead from Space, which also introduced a new Doctor and also featured the Autons.
I guess, and with how much he reminded me of the Third Doctor, I guess it kind of makes sense. Not in a good way, by the way. Well, kind of reminded me of the bad parts of the Third Doctor.
Yeah, me too, but there were also moments where I could tell that the Ninth Doctor, I think, isn't always that
we'll get there. We'll get
crass, I guess.
But so the Doctor saves Rose here. He's kind of introduced a little underwhelmingly, thankfully.
Yeah, I actually liked that.
Yeah, it's kind of how they did it in the classic show, too. So, obviously, I'm just judging this based on how close it is to the classic show. And the closer it is, the better, so.
Well, you're gonna have to evolve.
Evolve or die.
Yeah, evolve or die, Keon. Kill you off and replace you with a new character on this show. Just your Doctor.
All right.
We'll write you out.
I'll finally be free. No.
But yeah, he just shows up and his first words are run. Really non-synced with his lips at all in that scene for some reason.
Interesting point. The Ninth Doctor is actually dubbed over. No.
Yeah, so true fact, the Ninth Doctor is actually dubbed by Russell T himself.
So his design is probably the worst of all 9 Doctors so far. I mean, it's just a leather jacket and an extremely generic haircut. He honestly just looks like an extremely generic and skinny dude they just put in a leather jacket and gave a buzz cut to and said...
I mean, I'm okay with that. I think Christopher Eccleston, I read that he requested the costume basically be nothing special because he didn't want the costume to overshadow the character. Yeah, which it did at points in the classic series. Looking at you, Six.
Well, I've read some stuff that Eccleston has supposedly said that he didn't want to be typecast as the Doctor, that's why he quit, and then the thing you just said, so... Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily like it, though, because, it's sort of the outlier in the Doctor's costumes.
I guess I don't actually necessarily like it, I'm just okay with it, because I think it fits his character, which I think is the most important bit. The Ninth Doctor is... I think trying to fly under the radar a bit more than previous Doctors, so I think it would make sense that he kind of tries to blend in a bit with the leather jacket and the pants.
I think that's true. On the other hand, it seems a little lazy, but on the other hand of that...
Oh man, we got 3 hands now.
It seems like... Well, I mean, when you think about the first Doctor, his costume wasn't that out there, and it wasn't really until, like, maybe the 3rd or 4th Doctors that they started to get that out there. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, this show is going to want to bring in the new fans as well as the old ones. So they're not going to want them to dress super crazy and turn people off who don't know what Doctor Who is.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's also true. But I think really it comes down to they're trying to go for a costume that fit his character, like they did in the classic series. I guess we're just comparing this to the classic series again. Like the first Doctor was very uptight, so he always wore a suit, which was, you know, well-fitting, and he had the spyglass. And then the second Doctor was like a lot more fun and loose, so his clothing was more loose and so on and so forth. But whether or not you like that choice, I guess, is up to you.
I do think there's a noticeable trend, though, in the classic show of it getting more out there.
Yeah, and that trend was
and I think
pretty irritating, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know much about the 10th and 11th Doctors because I try and stay spoiler-free, but obviously I know what they look like, and I'd say that trend is also true for this series.
Yeah, they rein it back in with the 12th Doctor, but we'll get there. Like I said, trying to keep an open mind here, so...
At least it doesn't have question marks.
That's true, thank God for that.
Could have slapped a giant question mark on his back.
That would have been hilarious.
Would have been hilarious for Clive. There's been people throughout history with giant question marks on their backs.
No, what would have been hilarious is that for the whole episode, we only see the Doctor from the front, and then the final scene, he like turns around to go into the TARDIS, and there's just this massive question mark on his back.
Where he's just wearing like a varsity jacket with Doctor Who on the back.
The front is just, instead of 3 Greek letters, it's just question marks.
No, it's got to be Sigma Theta.
Oh yeah, Sigma Theta question mark.
Yeah, because no one knows if it's his real name. It's like Sigma Theta?
Well, when we show on Doctor Who, that'll be our costume.
For The Rock.
It would actually fit The Rock. A varsity jacket would actually fit The Rock, I think.
Yeah, sure, I guess. Why? Because he was part of WWE?
No, because he looks like a massive football player.
Oh. Yeah, alright. Anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah,
when we run the show.
Yeah, when what? What? We might get there.
So, the Doctor leads Rose out of the building. He's like, get as far away from the building as possible.
I'm gonna blow it up.
Some of you are alright. Don't come to this department store tomorrow. No.
Well, that's a dark reference.
No, but it does blow up. And I was like, wow, a lot more explosion-y than the classic series usually was, except for maybe the greatest show in the galaxy.
Yeah, well, we're not done with the explosions yet, so brace yourself. In this episode, I mean. And so they go.
I think Rose is holding one of the arms.
Yeah. Because one of the Autons tries to get into the elevator, and the Doctor pulls his arm off.
Yeah.
Gives it to Rose and is like, hang on to this. And then the Doctor's like, well, I gotta go find the stuff, so I'll see you later. And then we kind of see, as Rose is walking away, we see the TARDIS in the background, and there's like this ominous, well, the Bad Wolf theme plays, so.
Yeah.
There was no reference to the Bad Wolf in this episode. Bad Wolf is the overarching plotline of this season, but it's
spoiler alert.
It's less of a plotline and more of just things you notice in the background.
Yeah. So Rose goes home.
Yeah, and then the episode ends. The Doctor's like...
Doctor leaves?
Yeah, everything's good. No, actually, Rose wakes up the next day, and the Doctor's like looking through a cat flap, and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I live here. And he's like, well, why would you do that? Yeah,
because he's homed in on the Auton arm. I think we were introduced to Rose's mom before, but we see more of her here. She's pretty lazy and kind of annoying, and apparently just spends her daughter's money all day.
There was a pretty funny scene, actually, when the Doctor shows up the first time, and Rose is like tries to play it off as he's like from the Inspector Bureau or whatever, and then he's in Jackie Tyler's bedroom, and she's like, yeah, there's a stranger in my bedroom. I'm in a nightgown. Anything could happen. And the Doctor's like, no, and just leaves.
Doctor's like, sorry, I'm going to go after your younger and more attractive daughter instead. We're also introduced to Rose's boyfriend, Mickey Mouse. No,
just Mickey, and he's a total deadbeat who just goes to the pub to watch the
game.
The game, even though
Rose he just paid $90 to watch it on TV.
Yeah, he probably spends $90 drinking at the pub every day watching the game anyway, so...
Probably not, but, yeah, so...
I mean, you never know.
The thing about... I guess we'll get into this more at the end when Rose decides to leave, but the thing about Mickey and Rose's mom was... You could tell they were trying to make them seem like bad people, but to me, more than bad people, they just seemed kind of annoying. And, like, people you wouldn't necessarily want to be around, but with some redeeming qualities.
Yeah, I think Mickey is... I think Jackie's more annoying than Mickey, to be honest. Mickey just doesn't do anything, and that's kind of his character in this episode, anyway.
Yeah.
Jackie, on the other hand, is like being all annoying and.
Because it doesn't actually say this, but it's like heavily implied, I guess, or you can guess that she doesn't really do anything. She doesn't have a job, and she kind of just bums off her daughter.
But it kind of feels like she's trying to get Rose to be a better person than she was. At least she's like, you gotta go get a job, Rose. You gotta go do something. Go get a settlement from that bomb that went off at the department store you worked at.
Yeah. And then she also does try and, get the settlement later on.
Yeah.
And then tries to blow it all on clothes or whatever, so there's that. But that's the thing. It just seemed that they were more annoying rather than actually being bad people, so...
Yeah, I guess they're just supposed to be annoying, I suppose. I think making them annoying is because they needed it to be believable that Rose was going to leave for a while.
And that's why, to me, it wasn't as believable that she would leave, because they're more... Well, I guess we'll get to that scene.
Okay, yeah, we'll get there. Anyway, so the doctor's like, well, so the arm tries to kill them, and the doctor gets it off, and he's like, well, so the Nestine Conscious is trying to kill everybody. Bye now.
She's like, wait a minute.
And we hear the TARDIS dematerialize. We don't see it. Gotta save on that budget wherever you can.
Yeah.
This episode...
Still a low-budget show.
This episode, this is relevant to right now because the whole walking from the apartment scene to the TARDIS was written because, much like the classic series, this episode was underrunning. So they wrote in that scene where they walk from the apartment to the TARDIS to kind of pad it out slightly.
Get some of the most garbage dialogue in the episode. Especially the one where the doctor's like, imagine the world spinning or whatever that little speech was. That was kind of lame.
And he's like, I can feel it. And then he's like, well, bye now.
Yeah, not really a fan of that. I think it's going to be sort of a common type of thing that they do in the reboot.
Perhaps.
/ New Who. Not really a fan. Although it might be better when the actual dialogue and script is better. So, who knows?
Rose hears the TARDIS dematerialize. She's like, well, that's kind of weird. TARDIS is gone. Although she doesn't know what a police box is, apparently. Yeah, they had to explain what a police box was later on in this episode, I guess because they didn't exist in London anymore in 2005.
Wouldn't you know, though? Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know if you'd know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, then later on, Rose decides to...
Google the doctor.
Effectively Google the doctor. Which I liked. I mean, that's something that I would reasonably see somebody doing when they met a strange man who has a blue box. In present day, anyway.
I guess. Yeah. She has this giant white monitor.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those classic 2005 monitors.
Even in 2005, those were outdated.
Yeah, kind of feels like it was made in 1999 almost. Anyway.
Yeah, kind of actually does with the CG we're about to get.
Yeah. So she finds out about this guy who runs this website, like whoisthedoctor.com or something.
Some obvious conspiracy theory website. Turns out he's actually right about most things.
Yeah, his name's Clive. Apparently he has a family, which kind of makes what happens to him suck even more.
Yeah, and his family is like super down on his conspiracy theories that obviously don't believe him.
Well, I mean,
who would, but it's also kind of sad.
Yeah. So Rose goes to meet him, and she takes Mickey with, because if this crazy old dude from the internet tries to kill her, better to have backup.
Yeah. And Clive's son answers the door, and he's like, Dad, it's another one of your loonies.
And he's like, oh boy. And she's like, I've seen the doctor. And he's like, let me show you all the stuff. Apparently, the Ninth Doctor was at the assassination of Kennedy.
Yeah, so kind of just a reference to episode 1, which was aired on that day.
Yeah, / the day after. And also he was at some random household in England.
And like an island somewhere, just standing there, kind of.
It's kind of weird because when the Doctor first goes to Rose's house, he looks in the moon. He's like, "Oh, the ears are pretty big," supposedly implying that he's just regenerated into his ninth body. But then all of these pictures that Clive shows Rose seems to debunk that theory, unless
could have been later.
Yeah, unless the Ninth Doctor later on is like, "I'm just gonna go watch the assassination of Kennedy."
Yeah, why not?
Apparently, also Russell T Davies wanted the comics to show the Eighth Doctor regenerate into the Ninth Doctor because the comics were running at the time that the show was still on. Well, when the show came back, I mean, and they had an Eighth Doctor series going. And then the head of the comics, because the comics were ending, which is why Russell T wanted the regeneration to be the final comic strip because it would tie all the Doctors together. But the comics like, that's too big of a responsibility for us to show in the comics, so no.
At least they admitted it instead of biting off more than they could chew.
Yeah, probably that's a good thing.
On the other hand, they didn't even try, so...
So we wouldn't actually see the regeneration into the Ninth Doctor for another 8 years.
Great.
And, so anyway, the Doctor...
Meanwhile, outside, Mickey is being attacked by a trash can.
A plastic trash can, obviously.
It's a Croton? No.
Oh, boy. His hands get stuck to it, and we get some early 2000s CG.
This isn't really early 2000s.
Okay, it's more like late 90s.
It's more mid 2000s. Well, the show is, but the CG is definitely early 2000s. Yeah.
It actually reminds me of Billy Piper's music video from the late 90s, because Billy Piper was like a Britney Spears type.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is.
Britney Spears?
No, Billy Piper.
She plays Rose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was like a Britney Spears type thing, pop star. Her music sounds a lot like Britney Spears. Anyway, the song that I'm thinking
in on
of.
that Britney Spears money.
Anyway, she wanted to be an actress, so this was...
Well, she's pretty decent, so
yeah,
it's not bad.
But yeah, one of her songs, I think it's called Because We Want To, has CG that's eerily reminiscent of this, and it came out quite a few years before the show. Now, that's all I think of now when I see this kind of chromy-looking, sticky, goopy CG.
Huh. Well, I was going to say that sucks, but I don't know if that actually sucks. Maybe it does.
I mean, song's not that bad.
Well, but I mean, is the CG that bad? Or is thinking about that song every time you see this kind of CG that bad?
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, Mickey gets
eaten
and replaced by
a really obvious
robot.
Plastic copy that Rose doesn't notice, which I guess is supposed to play into the fact that Rose like barely notices Mickey or some out of the relationship seems to be on the rocks.
Yeah, either that or it's just plot convenience. So they're like, "What do you want to eat? Pizza or Chinese?"
Mickey's like, "Pizza, pizza, pizza." Like a Dalek almost. Pizza, pizza. Anyway,
so they go do that.
Yeah. I don't know if they do that because they end up at a really high-end establishment that serves champagne, like a high-end pizza establishment.
Mickey's pretty interested in the Doctor. He's like, "Where's the Doctor? Where is he now?" And Rose is like, "Dude, I don't know. Calm down."
There's some classic mid-2000s cuts and sound effects here when Mickey's... Yeah. So that was kind of a throwback.
And you don't see the Doctor's actually offering them champagne or something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, he's offering them the champagne, but you don't see it's him until it pans up to show his face. You just kind of see his hands like, "Champagne?" Then he's like, "Ma'am, your champagne." And then Mickey's like, "We didn't order any champagne." He looks up and it's like, aha, it's the Doctor.
So they have this big fight.
Not really. The Doctor shoots him with a cork and then he spits it out and he's like, "Oh," and then the Doctor tears off Mickey's head. Which is pretty gruesome to everybody who was in the restaurant who didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Then they escape into the TARDIS. This is the first time we see the TARDIS in the reboot.
Yeah, and the first time we see the
redesigned interior,
and the first time we see the interior from not that one angle. You know that one angle.
Yeah, probably the last time though, because this set is actually a half set like the original console in pretty much the same way. So we pretty much always see it from the
that one angle
from the right side. Yeah, not necessarily the same angle, but we do always only see it from that one side.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Until Stephen Moffat takes over and they build a full 360 console room set, so we can see it from a lot more angles later on. But until then. I'm actually okay with it because it's kind of a throwback to the classic series when we only ever saw it from the same side.
Yeah. So we should probably talk about this new design because it's way different than anything from the classic show. And I guess they also brought like sonic screwdriver. We didn't mention that. So there's probably these, and those are two things from the classic show, obviously, the TARDIS interior and sonic screwdriver. And it kind of, on the one hand, I know I'm saying that a lot in this episode, on the one hand and on the other hand, but on the one hand, feels kind of like a slap in the face that they'd redesign it and that they'd bring back the sonic screwdriver. But I guess on the other hand, the mentality might have been like, well, it's going to come back eventually. Might as well just go all out with it and do what we can with it right now. In the first episode.
Yeah, I feel like almost the reason why this feels a lot like the classic series is that it was almost intentionally designed that way to kind of be a transition episode. I almost feel like maybe the intention is that they're going to wean off a lot of those classic series kind of ties, like the techno music and the things as the series goes on, to make it kind of more of its own thing, I think, because I feel like Russell T doesn't want to kind of and the other people on the production staff too don't want to kind of pigeonhole themselves into we have to make Doctor Who this way. And I think what they want to take it in new directions, but to do that, they kind of have to first acknowledge that the classic series exists and tie everything kind of together. Well,
it's also that like they want those classic series fans and new fans probably, so it's like can't just completely have this new continuity, not new continuity, but can't just not have these references and things. Mm-hmm. But honestly, in my opinion, as a show that can entertain newcomers and old comers, I guess, it actually does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Pretty good first episode.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's really clever in the way how it introduces all the elements of the show. Like the Doctor, we don't see the Doctor first, we see the Companion first, because the Companion is always kind of the more interesting character generally.
Well, I think we're gonna. There's a lot I want to say about that at the end of this episode.
And then we see the inside of the TARDIS when Rose kind of doesn't want to go inside because she thinks it's going to be smaller, but then she goes inside, and we get the classic scene where she goes outside and then she comes in. She's like, "Oh, it's bigger on the inside." And the sonic screwdriver's introduction is kind of garbage, but anyway.
Apparently, it can harm people's eyes now. I don't remember that from the classic show. Like, don't watch; it'll harm your.
Yeah, they throw that away real quick.
Yeah.
The Doctor uses a sonic screwdriver for some really random stuff in this episode, like quote-unquote deactivating autons. He like beams the Mickey auton with it and it turns off.
We need to update our sonic screwdriver BS page.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Good thing we brought it up right now.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the console room design. I think it's unique, at least.
It looks a lot more organic.
Yeah, which is intentional. It feels a lot more kind of thrown together, too. It feels a lot more slapdash.
Kind of reminded me of Kashyyyk from the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Well, they obviously put most of their budget into this set out of all the sets, because this is the one that's going to be appearing through the entire season. But I mean slapdash in the way that, like, in universe, it looks like the Doctor's kind of assembled it from spare parts a lot of the time. Like the console especially looks...
The audio, spare parts, no.
He's assembled the console from Cyberman. No, the console especially looks kind of haphazard. It's got a lot of really random parts and bits and pieces on it.
Doctor does just go up and start pressing buttons and pulling wires out and stuff.
As he did in the classic series.
Sometimes.
A lot of the times.
Sometimes he knew exactly what to do.
I think he knows exactly what to do now. He just... exactly what to do happens to be pushing a lot of random buttons. Yeah, and it's more blue tinted. We didn't mention that. The Time Road is like blue-green.
Yeah, I guess. I don't specifically remember that, but sure.
There's also references to the roundels on the wall. It's like little hexagons with circles in them along the wall.
Yeah, I didn't notice
There's
that
also
either.
a second floor in the TARDIS. I don't know if you noticed this. There doesn't seem like there's any way to get to it.
Yeah, it's like one of those Doctor Who staircases. Oh my god, Doctor Who's? Is that what I said? Dr. Seuss staircases that like lead to nowhere. Like there's floors that are just inaccessible.
Yeah.
There's just a door like no one could get to.
So there's that second floor that's just there.
Yeah.
And so the Doctor moves the TARDIS. He's trying to use Mickey's head to track the Nestine consciousness.
Yeah.
And the head melts, and Rose is like, it's melting, and the Doctor's like, oh, darn.
Yeah. Rose obviously reacts more than, oh no, it's melting.
I'm melting!
But yeah, I think then they dematerialize and then rematerialize by following the...
Well, so they follow it kind of to the edge of the river, and the Doctor's like, damn, we missed it. And Rose is like, well, what are we looking for? And he's like, well, we're looking for a really big transmitter dish. I don't know how they could hide something so big and so circular in plain sight. And Rose is like...
Right behind him, it's the London Eye.
It's the London Eye, Doctor. And he's like, fantastic. Anyway, we get some more...
gotta advertise that London Eye. When did the London Eye open? If it was right before this, then...
Yeah. I don't know when it opened, actually. Have you been on the London Eye?
Yeah, I have.
I haven't.
It's not that amazing, honestly.
I feel like you get some good views.
You do, yeah, you do, but it's just... It's exactly what it's advertised as, the largest Ferris wheel in the world. And that's all it is.
It opened in 2000. It's actually not the largest Ferris wheel anymore.
Oh.
It was when it opened.
Dang, Londoners, get back on that. Expand the London Eye.
And so we got some more quick mid-2000s cuts as they're running to the eye. Then the
Eye of the Storm.
They go underground. The Doctor's like, I've got
apparently this place is just
anti-plastic.
accessible to the public. Actually, they probably sneak in somehow or whatever.
Yeah, well, they find the Nestine consciousness. It's goop. It's like molten lava in the floor.
They also find Mickey. The Doctor didn't actually kill him. It was just an Auton clone.
Yeah, well,
so,
I mean...
It was pretty obvious, but...
but the Doctor's like really... doesn't really care if Mickey's dead or alive. Rose is like, he's dead, and the Doctor's like, I didn't think of that.
But he's there. I guess he was taken there.
The Doctor says this really rude thing like, let's keep the domestics outside, please.
Yeah, the Doctor's very blunt to Mickey and Rose, kind of third Doctor-ish, where he just writes people off and kind of snaps back at them.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, yeah, so the Doctor talks.
Yeah, he tries to bargain with the
Nestine
consciousness.
again.
His bargaining chip though isn't really that convincing though. He's just like, look, these people are really primitive. Can you just leave? Like, come on, really?
We get the first.
He also has weapons hidden on him, so they don't really like that.
He's like, it was just security. We also get the first mentions of the Time War here. The Doctor mentions that the Great War wiped out all of the Nestine's feeding planets. Apparently, people in the universe were just okay with the Nestine having feeding planets.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they don't have any feeding planets anymore, so they're like, Earth, yum yum. I think that's a direct quote.
But oh no, it's not okay when it's Earth. No, gotta intervene when it's Earth.
And then we reveal the TARDIS, and the Doctor's like, oh man, you found the TARDIS. How did you even move the TARDIS? The Doctor also makes a sly reference to Marco Polo when he says the entire hordes of Genghis Khan couldn't get through that door. And believe me, they've tried. Yeah, anyway, Rose saves the day.
Yeah, kind of a confusing action-ish montage.
Says
Not montage,
something
but just
that
scene.
I couldn't understand.
When she's flipping the switches, she's like, she says something along the lines of like, what do I have left to live for? Might as well just risk my life. No job. People around me suck. I hate them. So
We forgot about the montage of the Autons really poorly trying to gun people down and missing every single shot.
Oh, yeah.
Except for Clive.
Clive dies.
Clive gets killed right after he's like, everything I read is true. It's all true. And then he dies. So that's kind of sad,
At least he got to find out that he was right, unlike some other characters who won't be named.
Of course. I wonder if that was an intention.
No. I highly doubt that. Rose's mom almost dies.
Yeah, the Autons, instead of doing what they've done to everybody else and try to gun them down, they like slowly reveal their guns to Jackie as they're waiting for Rose to kill the Nestine, I guess.
Yeah. And she's out trying to get the settlement money. And that's, I think we mentioned this before too, that's one of the things that made me go like, okay, she's not actually that bad. She's just more annoying.
Yeah.
So, would have preferred if they actually made them bad people that you want to leave. Although maybe it's just me thinking they're annoying. Maybe everyone else is like, yeah, they're actually bad.
I don't think they're bad. I think they're just annoying, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree with you. Anyway, Rose kicks an Auton into the Nestine. He dies. The Doctor flings an Auton into the Nestine, and he dies. And not the Doctor, the Auton. Really awkward, dies in his first episode. And then the anti-plastic falls into the Nestine. So Rose, in her very first episode, has already killed the Nestine consciousness.
Yep.
By the way, it's the second time the Nestine consciousness has died on this show.
Wonder if she'll get on Leela's level by the end of her run.
I guess we're going to find out. Then the Doctor's like, you could come with me, Rose. And Mickey's like, no, don't do it. He's an alien. And the Doctor's like, he's not invited.
Yeah. So Rose considers it for a while. And she's like, you know what? No.
I got to take care of Mickey.
And my mom. So she says no first. And the Doctor's like, okay. All right. So he dematerializes.
Then he rematerializes a minute later and is like, did I mention it travels in time?
And she's like, see ya, Mickey. See ya, Mom.
Well, I think the reason why she does that is because, I guess, with the mention that it can travel in time, now she knows that she can just come back to after she leaves.
I guess so. Kind of left a bad taste in my mouth where she's like, first she's like, she weighs it heavily and then she's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to come. And if she had said yes the first time, I would have been more okay with her decision. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he comes back and he's like, you can do this other cool thing. She's like, all right, that's enough to sell me. See ya, family members that probably depend on me a lot.
Yeah, I guess the way it's played out is kind of weird. If the Doctor had come back like a day later and been like, you know what, it travels in time, by the way, maybe that would have been better. Because, doing it immediately feels like she just immediately reconsidered, like, oh yeah. Never mind. But if he had come back like a day later, and I thought he had come back a day later from my memory of this, but apparently I was wrong, I think it would have been better.
Yeah, probably.
It would have felt more natural because then Rose could have actually had time to start regretting her decision.
Or at least think about it more.
Instead of just being like, lol. Apparently the Doctor has an entire adventure between when he dematerializes and rematerializes right there.
That also kind of makes it worse, in my opinion, because it's like, you can tell he wants Rose to come with him because he hasn't had a companion in, well, maybe this is just my imagination, but in my mind, he hasn't had a companion in a while at this point.
You're correct on that aspect.
Yeah, so he finally wants another companion. The fact that he goes and does something else, then it's like, oh, maybe I should go pick up Rose.
Well, my understanding of that adventure is that in that adventure, he's convinced that he should go back and try to convince Rose to come with him, and that's why he comes back. Well, someone convinces him to come back and not to let her get away so easily.
Well, we'll judge it when we listen to it.
Read it,
whatever. Same thing.
You could put it through text-to-speech.
Yeah.
Listen to some robot read it for you. We should have a text-to-speech program read out emails from now on.
Sure, why not?
You should have Alan read out emails.
I don't know what Alan is.
The bird from Sentinels of the New Dawn, renamed Alan.
Oh, yeah, how did I forget Alan?
Anyways,
yeah, that's the episode.
That's the end. So I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah, one of the things that is like noticeably different than most of the classic series is just how much it focuses on Rose. Like, she's pretty much the main character, at least of this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing she's either going to be the main focus of the season or as focused on as the Doctor, which the classic series almost never did.
I think they'll stray away from making Rose the main character, because I think in a show with kind of two main characters, they're gonna want to try and, I think, give them both kind of equal screen time. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to probably pull it off more successfully than the classic show ever did or even attempted to. But yeah, I actually liked that this episode was focused on Rose, because I feel like introducing the show through the Doctor would have been a bad idea, considering the Doctor has, one, so much history behind him, and two, kind of such a complex backstory. Like, he left Gallifrey, stole the TARDIS goes through time, he can regenerate.
Yeah. And the Doctor, if you haven't watched the classic show, and for people who just got into it with this, the Doctor's pretty mysterious, as he was in episode 1 of the classic show.
Yeah.
You don't really know much about him. Although, actually, maybe to a lesser extent, maybe to a greater extent. To a lesser extent, because in episode 1 of Unearthly Child, you don't really know anything about, like, the Doctor and Susan, at all. But here you know more, but they kind of set it up more as a mystery. So
yeah, they kind of follow the same general structure of Unearthly Child, which is meet the companions first. The companion kind of accidentally runs into the Doctor.
I mean, I'm only comparing it to episode 1 rather than when they go to prehistoric times.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, there's also actually a villain in this, unlike Unearthly Child, which was
just a 25-minute introduction.
Yeah, and on the topic of the Doctor, I feel like, yeah, the Ninth Doctor reminds me a lot, actually, of the Third Doctor, but I feel like he's not as mean as the Third Doctor, and one of the things that makes me think that is, like, right at the end of the episode when Rose is like, I saved your life, you couldn't have done it without me, and the Doctor actually says, yeah, you're right, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think he's at the Third Doctor's level. He kind of just reminded me of the Third Doctor. Third Doctor, I'm guessing the Ninth Doctor and all the Doctors from this point on will get a lot more noticeable character development than the classic series ones did. Because the Third Doctor, I guess you could say, had character development, but it was kind of just...
It's kind of just John Pertwee was like, maybe I shouldn't be so mean on screen.
Yeah, there wasn't really... Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Ninth Doctor, they're going to develop it, I think, into kind of, like, he's got a short temper, but he's trying to be happy, and he's trying to look on the bright side, but he's got a pretty short temper for things.
Yeah, well, I'm interested.
That's what I feel like they're going to go for. Like I've said 4 times already, I don't remember any of these episodes. And I'm really trying to forget my previous assessments of these episodes, because I want to go into these with an open mind. And I want to view them afresh, because when I had seen them originally, I hadn't seen the classic series, so I'm trying to look at them with new eyes. So yeah, all the speculation I'm making is just that, it's speculation.
We didn't mention that there's now a preview of the next episode.
Yeah, which I kind of hate.
Well, it was like a minute long, and it kind of seemed like it spoiled some stuff.
Yeah, that's why I kind of dislike it, is because I like seeing these episodes without having them spoiled. They get really bad with the spoilers by Series 10, which is the one that just aired, and they spoiled a massive reveal in, like, the first episode's Next Time trailer, and that reveal doesn't happen till the end of the season.
Wow.
So they get really bad with it, and I understand why they do it. It's because they want people to come back next time, obviously, and every show now has a Next Time trailer. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the BBC is worse at doing it than, like, every other show I've ever watched.
Well, because every other show just kind of gives you the moment where it's almost a spoiler, and then they cut it off.
And I like that to an extent, because when you do it like that, you're like, oh, what's it gonna be? What's gonna happen? Whereas if you do it like this, where they give away all the main plot points, you're like, why do I even need to watch next week's episode?
Well, maybe 20 to 30 years from now, when shows aren't aired and they're just released seasonally on streaming services.
They're just beamed directly into our brains.
Yeah. Maybe at that point, Next Time trailers won't be necessary, because all the episodes will just be available. If that's the model that takes off, I think it will. But
Yeah, I think it's already taking off.
It's starting. It's already starting.
Kind of annoying because it's just becoming like TV again, because now you have to buy 7 different streaming services to get the shows you want. This is actually on Amazon. That's how we watched it. Amazon has an exclusivity deal with the BBC in America for the reboot Doctor Who. Kind of annoying because I liked when it was on Netflix, but I guess Amazon will do.
Well, Amazon and Netflix are both garbage. Actually, all streaming services are, but Amazon's a little better.
Netflix used to be really good when they had a much wider catalog. Shows. Yeah, because a lot of people are pulling their shows off Netflix now because they're like, we're going to make our own streaming services, which is why it's becoming like cable TV, because it's just becoming stratified again per channel, per company, which is what TV used to be. Streaming exists to get away from that, but not anymore. Anyway, the outro credits, I meant to check if Christopher Eccleston was credited as the Doctor or Doctor Who. I seem to remember him being credited as Doctor Who, but I was too lazy to go back and check because I totally missed it. So I think he's credited as Doctor Who, though.
Yeah, we can always go back and verify. There's always that chance, but we're not going to take it.
No, I guess we could check.
We can check the wiki, but that's not necessarily the same as the... Maybe it might be.
He was credited as Doctor Who. Doctor Who, Christopher Eccleston.
They could just, I don't know, they could just make it up.
They could, but the wiki's usually...
It's probably right.
Yeah, the wiki usually... Because I remember when we looked at Sylvester McCoy's there, it said the Doctor, Sylvester McCoy. So they usually copy it pretty much directly from the credits. Kind of sucks for the guys to sit there and watch the entire credits to copy down that massive list of people involved.
Well, I mean, if you're a Doctor Who wiki contributor, then you're probably really into the show, like more than you should be. So
that's fair. The reboot lists a lot more people in the credits than the classic show did, because it lists like every single person who was ever involved.
Well, there's probably a lot more outsourcing done.
Yeah. We didn't mention that the show's filmed in Cardiff now and not London, so the fact that there were London scenes in this was also more of a surprise because of that. Doctor Who production's been based in Cardiff since 2005, so...
Nice. I don't know where Cardiff is, but I'm guessing it's in the UK.
It is in the UK. It's in Wales.
They go abroad. Okay, yeah, Wales, because this is BBC Wales, and their big logo shows up at the end.
Yeah, so that's the first episode of the reboot. We're finally here.
I really liked it. Honestly, I was so ready to just trash this episode and go in. I actually went into this with an extremely closed mind, expecting that I would hate it, and just ready to pick it apart. I actually liked it. So maybe I should have gone in with a positive mentality and hated it. Because my final goal is to hate the reboot. Obviously.
Why would you have that as a goal?
I don't know.
Kind of a terrible goal. You'd be just like all the other Doctor Who fans who only exist to hate the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Anyway, that's the end of this. Before we launch into the end, we re-released episode 0, a new version, which is hopefully better. We haven't recorded it yet. It'll have gone out probably yesterday.
At the very least, it'll be a lot less rambly than our actual episode 0. We should probably explain what our episode 0 is. It's just an explanation of what the podcast is, which we can just sum up right now in one line, is that we're watching Doctor Who in order, and we haven't really seen it before, and we're not experts. That's pretty much what this is.
But yeah, episode 0 also... I think the plan is also to tell you where to find our episodes and how to start with the show, because we have 160 something episodes plus 20 or so about spin-off media. So we've got like 180 episodes now, which is a bit overwhelming if you just find our podcast randomly on iTunes. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, check that out if you want to know other things about the show, I guess, or if you want to introduce your friends to the show, tell them about that episode. But anyway, you can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Mr. Eccleston and the Ninth Doctor. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube, all at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating if you liked the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching The End of the World. But until then, the end.